Wow, what an episode. Whenever it seems like Attack on Titan has established a new status quo, it somehow comes back and beats itself. I can say without hesitation that this hour-long special is amongst the best episodes in TV history, and for some, may just be the greatest. MAPPA sets this pace from the opening 10 minutes, which throws us into a horror short film. The airy soundtrack and sinister monologue by Eren create a haunting atmospheric tone, one that is only amplified by MAPPA not holding back with the visual depiction of the rumbling. Instead of glorifying the violence and justifying Eren's actions, our eyes witness utter chaos and sheer terror, which makes this portrayal of the rumbling far more disturbing than the manga, something that was already pretty heavy. And while all of these emotions and ideas are felt, heartbreak is also among them, especially because we don't view the person inflicting this hell onto the world as the devil of paradise, but as Eren Yeager. Obviously, this stems from the fact that we the viewers have the added benefit the world doesn't. We got to follow Eren right from when he was that lovable, annoying and edgy kid. Therefore, we've seen that there are many positive qualities about him, but at the same time, just like Mikasa, we overlooked the devil that was very present within him. To be frank, Eren is one of the most tragic characters in modern fiction. He is someone who ends up on the path of endless agony and hate, partly due to his outlook and ideology leaving him susceptible to the crushing blows of the cruel world. Eren has always been an outlier, different in the fact that everyone else seems relatively normal and grounded, whereas he comes across, or at least more so did, idealistic with his strong convictions and goals that seem almost impossible. His determination to see out his plans has been framed in a sinister way by the story. Even when he first explains his ambition to Erwin and Levi, he seems deranged and psychotic, partly why Levi eventually tells him that his Titan form doesn't make him the monster he fears, but that he already was one, recalling he is an individual that will refuse to be caged in, no matter the consequences. As a result, at many junctions in this story, we have witnessed his darker inclinations overcome him. After he first transforms into a Titan, he wakes up smiling about the fact that he's going to kill everyone. Or even when he loses utter control, his natural instinct is to say he wants to destroy the world in order to gain freedom. I can go on, but I'm sure you'll be remembering many of these moments. And this isn't something he just develops when his mother is taken from him. We see as far back as 9 years old that he always had a violent and flawed mindset. At such a young age, he brutally murders a group of kidnappers, and while what he did was to save Mikasa, we cannot overlook his reaction to the violence, especially when others in the story are outright showing and telling you that it's not normal. Isayama takes this moment in the story very seriously, hence we have revisited this memory multiple times. It's the moment when Isayama gives the clearest insight into how flawed Eren's logic can be. When he murders the kidnappers, he identifies them as not human, but rather animals, similar to the Titans who he views as vermin that need to be extinguished. Why? Eren of course knows his actions here are drastic, but to help him overcome the reality of what he sees and does, he refuses to identify them as humans. Moments later, when his father insists upon him acknowledging what he's done, he brushes it off with the same logic. In comparison, Mikasa is utterly paralyzed by the violence she has witnessed and inflicted. Eren isn't. Now, this could very well be a case of over-analysis if it wasn't for the fact that Eren does this same thing so many times throughout the entire story. When taken by Reiner and Bertolt, he screams and rages about them not being human anymore. Now that they are his enemy, he needs to view them differently in order to not hesitate when fighting them. This behavior is so frequent, Eren will create a flawed justification and image in his head to help him, in his own words, keep moving forward. Admittedly, I've made this point before in my previous analysis, but felt it was worth going over again as we see this same forced, flawed logic in this special. There is no doubt that the rumbling is sickening and that he is suffering from it, and yet, from Eren's point of view, what does he see? Or should I say, choose to see? Well, definitely not the steam from his colossal titans that are paving the earth in blood, nor does he hear deafening screams. Instead, he sees a beautiful blue sky, as he obviously refuses to acknowledge the chaos he's inflicting. The steam from the titans appear as clouds to further paint a beautiful image, one that he's always dreamed of, untamed lands, which leads him to say, "This is freedom." What's even more amazing about this moment is the choice by Isayama to reflect Eren as a child instead of the adult he's become. Kids can be ignorant to the wider ramifications and consequences of their actions. They can believe in grand delusions, just as Eren does in this moment. Damn, what a fantastic scene and opening 10 minutes, one that I felt I could only give justice to by digging deeper into how Eren has always, despite his growing understanding and intelligence of the world, had flawed outlooks and reasoning that make him one of the most complex and compelling characters ever written. It's also not just him though. The side characters are so well developed and given their time to shine in this special episode. Reiner, the guilt-driven warrior that is fighting to atone for his sins, gets a brilliant full circle moment that pretty much completes his arc. Just before, in the previous part, John and Connie killed people they called friends. People who looked at them and called them traitors, even though they thought they were just saving the world. This is exactly the same situation Reiner as well as Annie and Bertolt found themselves in, when the scouts they befriended called them enemies, even though they thought they were just saving the world. It's great circular writing that ties everything together, as well as further illustrating how blurry the lines can become once we have full context and perspectives. Honestly, I could go on and on about how well written the characters are and how they all shined in this special, whether it's Armin, Mikasa, Annie or Levi. But this episode focuses its light on Hanji, so it would be ridiculous to not focus on her. She has really had a tough time as commander of the scouts. She's encountered failure after failure, but her greatest burden of all has been her lack of solution to the endless hatred and violence. Despite this, no one, or at least I hope not, begrudges her for this. She was tasked with a mission that we, in the real world, to this date have never solved. So why would Isayama be able to do that for her? AOT is a story that parallels concepts such as greed, corruption and war in ways that reflect closely to our world. Regardless of that though, otherwise we'll be here all day exploring themes, she carries that specific failure to end hatred of Eldia and to provide hope to Eren on her shoulders. This is of course why she puts herself forward to stall the Titans. Now for those who don't know, this sequence in the manga was one of the controversial elements, as many didn't understand how she helped. They couldn't buy into the fact that she was able to stall for time, meaning they felt her death was unnecessary. However, as you can tell by the universal reception it's been getting online, the anime smashed the adaptation of her death, and this is because they focus on little details that make a greater impact in understanding the extent to which Hanji was able to help. In the anime, we can clearly see that without her stalling for time, the scouts may have never made it beyond this point. This is because we get an amazing dedicated animated sequence of her getting rid of multiple Titans, and at the same time we get side-by-side shots of them repairing the plane to set off. Essentially, a greater passage of time can be conveyed in animation than just 2D pages. Furthermore, the music that plays during this epic sequence pushes this moment to easily become my favourite send-off in the series. Hanji's death wasn't the only thing though that this special improved upon. For example, Eren's grandparents meet their judgment day, and Floch gets a very well deserved send-off. Everything in this moment made perfect sense. Mikasa not hesitating as she and her comrades learnt that lesson from the Uprising arc, and Floch devoutly dying firm in his beliefs. It's hard not to admire the courage and patriotism of Floch, especially because he grew from a feeble, weak soldier to only go and become the devil's most loyal servant. Even if the Jaegerists, in my opinion, are an extreme, radicalized military force that will perpetuate a never-ending cycle of violence, they have strong reasoning, as demonstrated by Floch. It's so hard to pick sides in this story, which is what is needed. If there was never infighting amongst the fanbase about whose side you should be on, then Isayama would have failed in creating a compelling set of narratives, perspectives and characters that you can root for. It's phenomenal. I've never been so conflicted and so challenged by a story to keep on thinking and re-evaluating my beliefs as to who's right. But at the end of the day, The boring answer is maybe no one, as we are witnessing a bleak and meticulously written commentary about humanity. All that to the side for a moment, let's actually spare a second to reflect on this special's incredible production. The animation is the best it's ever been under MAPPA, and that's not to say before was bad, but this is just a clear level above. The studio was able to flex its creative juices through stunning ODM sequences and fantastic cinematography. The color grading and lighting further added to the tone of each scene. It's all amazing and fantastic work by MAPPA, something that we can all applaud. And yet, with all that being said, we have to wait around 6 months to get to the conclusion of this epic. I only hope that people are open to it before the episode even airs. Of course, what I'm talking about is the controversial ending that split the fanbase. But over the past few months, as more controversial elements have been adapted in the anime, I've seen people shift their opinions. But regardless, it's fair to say Attack on Titan is a story destined for a controversial last episode. As someone who likes the manga ending more and more as time goes by, I hope they adapt it, or if not, there are a few good anime original ending theories that have floated on by. Nevertheless, I will leave you with this final summary of my thoughts. This hour-long special is a perfect adaptation of the manga material, and in fact, enhances it in so many ways through newly added scenes, phenomenal direction, and a heavy emotional soundtrack. At this point, Attack on Titan has pushed itself so far ahead of any other competitor that it's, well, the peak of all storytelling and television.